June.
Now, my husband did not wrap up the nomination in 1992 until he won the California primary somewhere in the middle of June, right? We all remember Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in June in California.
The Obama campaign quickly responded, saying Clinton's comment about Kennedy's assassination was unfortunate and has no place in this campaign.
There's something else in here, the practical politics of this. Even if this were appropriate, what on earth is she talking about? Let's turn now to our own Jonathan Alter, senior editor at Newsweek magazine. John, thanks for coming in.
Hi, Keith.
I don't understand the premise. A candidate or a presumptive candidate has to leave the race for some reason. We'll make it a good race. He wins the lottery. He's become king of Norway. It's something positive. I don't know, or even something concerned with his family's health, something like that. If Senator Clinton were to bow out and suddenly the Democratic nomination were open again at any point up to the election, could she not step back in? Why make a reference like this if that's the case?
Well, she could step back in, but, you know, if she had, say, bowed out before there were primaries and hadn't gotten back in time, you know, then there are situations like this. For instance, when Tom Eagleton was forced off the ticket in 1972, where the Democratic National Committee then had to decide. So the delegates would figure out, you know, who to vote for, and if something awful happened to Senator Obama, which was this subtext of what we're talking about here, you know, she could have gotten back in and would have almost certainly become the nominee, although perhaps not if she had said something like this.
Yeah. Howard made a great point. The other practical political issue in this, the invoking of the assassination of RFK in June as a landmark, as a fixed time in the process, or even her husband clinching in June of 1992, it's apples and oranges historically, isn't it? Because in 92, the Iowa caucuses were on the 10th of February. In 1968, New Hampshire was March 12th. June then is not June now.
Right. And also the other thing that's really important to understand is the first part of her answer where she referred to her husband, that somehow, like, he didn't clinch the nomination until June of 1992 is preposterous. He had the nomination wrapped up for weeks by that point. Now, because California didn't vote until June, as a technical matter, he wasn't over the top, but the race was long since over. And so, you know, she's... I do compare it a little bit to what happened with the Bosnia business. You know, you do have to say that fatigue is a factor. I don't think any of us could have handled this, you know, this kind of campaign and the stresses that it puts on us. I think we do sometimes hold people too accountable for their verbal gaffes, but you do have to wonder what is going on inside her head. And a lot of her reason for staying in this race was not necessarily in the expectation that Barack Obama would be assassinated, but in the expectation that something cataclysmic would happen. And you have to argue, you have to wonder, is it worth hurting the Democratic Party for the possibility that something cataclysmic of any kind, whether a violent or a gaffe by Obama or something happening, should she have put the Democratic Party through all of this over the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, just on the off chance that something could happen? And you can tell that that was in her head.
But where is her campaign, never mind her head, right now?
Her campaign is over. Look, I mean, she was not going to get put over the top with the superdelegates with a big victory in Puerto Rico. There's nobody really, as a practical matter, left to vote now. Montana and South Dakota are tiny, and Puerto Rican votes don't count in a general election. Right. So she's not going to convince the superdelegates. She has lost this nomination, and she has probably lost her opportunity, which was small to begin with, of being the vice presidential nominee.
That flew out the window, too, today. Our own Jonathan Alter, senior editor at Newsweek magazine. As always, John, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Keith.